Hello everybody, welcome back to my video again. And as you know that in the last few days we are constantly trying to practice multiple choice questions since the time your council has informed that there will be questions like this set for your semester 1. So first what we will do is we have already line by line explanation, we've already dealt with that for the story of an hour as we have in class 12 ISC students. For them, it is already discussed in my last video. You can follow it that from the link must be there somewhere above. You can start from there. You can finish off explaining, understanding that portion, and then come back to this video so that you can solve the MCQ questions all by your own. So, without much ado, let us start with the questions that we have from Story of an Art. It is just a part. In the later videos. We will also give up bring in more videos on Story of an Hour. The more parts of it, we will deal with that. First, try to see how much you can score in this particular MCQ questions. So let's start. So today we will be doing the MCQ questions, which is very important this time. You see, first let us read the extract from which the questions are said. Knowing that Mrs. Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble, great care was taken to break to her as gently as possible the news of her husband's death. It was her sister Josephine who told her in broken sentences, veiled hints that revealed in half concealing. Her husband's friend Richards was there too near her. It was he who had been in the newspaper office when intelligence of the railroad disaster was received, with Rentley Mallard's name leading the list of the killed. He had only taken the time to assure himself of its truth by a second telegram and had hastened to forestall any less careful, less tender friend in bearing the sad message. First, the question may come in the same reference to context pattern, but it will be just the MCQ type. Question number 1, let's see what is the question. These are just the first two paragraphs that is set for the MCQ now. Question number 1, pick the option that explains Mrs. Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble. You just have to explain the option which explains this line the best. So first one, Mrs. Mallard was a heart patient. Number 2, Mrs. Mallard was a heart patient can be correct, right? We have to check which one is the best. So let us first identify which are the options which are correct at least. If there are 2 correct, then we will see which one we will eliminate the other one which is less correct than the other. Alright, this is the way you solve MCQ questions. Mrs. Mallard was a heart patient, correct. Number 2, Mrs. Mallard would not be able to digest the sudden news of her husband's death. This is also correct, but in this particular line, Mrs. Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble. This does not mean this particular line that she will not be able to digest the news. Only that line, the meaning of that particular line is asked. So this is not going to be true. She lacked strength. Now see, okay, she lacked strength. It can also mean symbolically. It may mean that she lacked strength or endurance, maybe. Number T, being a woman different from her time, she was sad as her share of freedom was denied. Now this one is also correct. So we can see that A, C and D. More correctly, if we identify it as A and D, which are both correct, right? But the thing is, you see in the question, nowhere it has been called a symbolic meaning, correct? Pick the option that explains, just explains. It is not symbolic explanation, just the explanation. So it will be Mrs. Mallard was a heart patient. Now if the question is symbolically, you identify the symbolic meaning of this line, then you can say that being a woman different from her time, she was sad as her share of freedom was denied. And you know that heart trouble, that feeling in the heart, that being sad about something, being sad about deprived of something, then we can call it a symbolic significance, not the direct meaning. So direct meaning is Mrs. Mallard was a heart patient. Question number 2. Identify the word which does not mean the same as concealing with reference to the above context. You see, with reference to the above context, that means in that paragraph, whatever meaning is given of concealing, whatever you understand from that word concealing, you have to see which word does not mean the same. Okay. But point number 1 is veiled, suppressed, censure and restrain. So you see, veiled means hidden, suppressed means hidden, restrain. Okay, restrain means you are holding something from somebody. That also means restrain. That also means concealing. So the correct answer will be censure. Okay, because you have to be careful in understanding what is written in the question. See, which does not mean the same. That means you have to find out the odd one out, which is not meaning the same meaning as concealing, which is not synonymous with concealing. Okay. Next, question number 3. He has only taken time to assure himself of its truth. What does this tell you about Richards? He has only taken time to assure himself of its truth. He waited, isn't it? Richards waited to assure that whether this news is true or this is just something which has come up, which is just a rumor. So he has to make sure of that. Now, what does this tell you about Richards? It is not asking what is the meaning of this line. It is asking what does this tell you about Richards as a human being. So the first option is he was disillusioned hearing the news. He could not trust the news. He made sure that the news was true. He made sure that no incorrect information troubled Mrs. Mallard. Now, what we will do is again, like I told you, we will try to eliminate the wrong option. Then we will find out which one is the best among the 2 or 3 options which are correct. Alright. So he was disillusioned hearing the news. See, disillusion, the word disillusion means what? That you have heard something and you could not believe it. It's like something which you had never expected has suddenly happened. Okay, so disillusioned is not the right word in this situation. Okay, disillusion means maybe I have trust in you and you break my trust and I am disillusioned. So this is not right. Number B, he could not trust the news. Okay, this is partially correct. He made sure that the news was true. This is also correct. He had to make sure of it, isn't it, that the news is true. Otherwise, it will hurt Mrs. Mallard, who already had a heart disease. He made sure that no incorrect information troubled Mrs. Mallard. So you see, he had only taken time to assure himself of its truth. What does this tell you about Richards? Why did Richards do this? This is because he had to make sure that no incorrect information troubled Mrs. Mallard. Right? That's why he verified the news. Otherwise, who cares, isn't it? That's why he verified whether the news is true or it is wrong. So this is what tells us about this is what we come to know about Richards, that he is careful whether the information is true or not, because that will cause harm to Mrs. Mallard. You see the last 3 options B, C, D, all are almost correct, but we have to find out the better one. That's why number D is correct, where we are also identifying the reason behind Richards' behavior. Correct. Next, we will move to the next extract. She did not hear the story, as many women have heard the same, with a paralyzed inability to accept its significance. She wept at once with sudden wild abandonment in her sister's arms. When the storm of grief had spent itself, she went away to her room alone. She would have no one follow her. There stood, facing the open window, a comfortable roomy armchair. Into this she sank, pressed down by a physical exhaustion that haunted her body and seemed to reach into her soul. So you see, we are coming one paragraph after the other. So one after the other, we will solve MCQ from all the extracts. From all the paragraphs that follow. Alright, till the end. And then we will mix and match everything and bring MCQs together. So I tell you that this is very important that you solve these questions, and what is best to do is, you see, first I'm not giving you the answers. It is not written in the written over here in the sheet itself. So first you read the question, pause the video, try to answer find out the correct answer. When you have yourself seen all the options and you have identified, okay, this is number B, I think number B is correct. Then you again play the video and check whether my answer and your answer is correct or not. Alright, that way you can verify, you can yourself try to solve the answers instead of just hearing the answers. Alright, question number 1. What does the above passage tell you about Mrs. Mallard? So from the above passage, what do you come to know from these 2 paragraphs? That there was the open window, how she came and sat, how she was not paralyzed, she just came and started weeping after hearing the news. What do you come to know about this? So what does the above passage tell you about Mrs. Mallard? Louis Mallard was ahead of her times, unlike women who were submissive and docile. So we obviously this is correct, isn't it? That Louis Mallard is not like those women who would keep crying and would be like paralyzed suddenly when they suddenly hear it. Okay. First they will be paralyzed. This is most important. Other women will be paralyzed, as you see in the first paragraph. They would be like shocked. It would be like the whole world has shattered, and next moment what I will do, how I will fend for myself without my husband. You are unaware. These were the condition of women at those times. But she is a little different. She is not that paralyzed. She cries, she weeps because she is sad about the loss of her husband, but not paralyzed. So okay, number 1 is correct. Number B, Mrs. Mallard considered her husband's death to be a bitter moment. Now this is obviously correct. That's why she cried. Alright. Brindley Mallard was very kind to Mrs. Mallard. Now this above passage has nothing to do much about Brently Mallard. We do not have that much. Even if he had not been very kind, just kind, then also Mrs. Mallard would have been unhappy with the death, isn't it? C is not that correct. Mrs. Mallard could never accept his death, and it would bother her every moment henceforth. So rest of his life would be bothered because rest of her life would be bothered because of her husband's death. Now, from the above passage, we get no such idea. So A and B are the best ones over here. One of the best will be correct, right? So Louis Mallard was ahead of times, unlike women who were submissive and docile, or Mrs. Mallard considered her husband's death to be a bitter moment. So above passage, if you read very between the lines, you'll be able to understand there is a subtle difference between Louis Mallard and the other women, that they were paralyzed if they heard such a news, because the whole world shattered, they were completely dependent on their husbands. That is why the whole world would shatter. But on the other hand, you see, Louis Mallard, her husband is dead. She is sad. That's why she weeps. But it's not that she is paralyzed, that her whole world is shattering, what she will do afterwards. She's not worried about that. She's a free woman in her heart. Although not free from her husband's rules and regulations, but still free. So the best possible answer is number A. Okay. Now coming to question number 2. The wife entered the room alone. Why did the wife suddenly enter the room alone? Okay, why not? Why didn't she allow the sister, what was her name, Josephine, to enter? So what was the reason behind that? Self-discovery, freedom, peace, time for herself. You see, all the options I have chosen in such a way that you might think that all are correct, isn't it? Self-discovery. Yes, I'll go inside and I'll discover what am I, what is the confusion in my mind. I'll search, I'll try to think the reason behind that. One is correct. Freedom. Entered for freedom, we cannot call it. She had to realize in her mind, what is freedom, and she is now going to get that freedom for herself. Freedom is not that correct. Peace. Now for peace is also not that correct, because she is a bit confused at what is happening in her mind. Slowly these ideas have started coming in, isn't it? She has already started realizing. There is a dumb stare in her eyes when she enters, isn't it? So already something is there in her mind, and she wants to study that and find out what is that actually. So time for herself and self-discovery are the two which we find that both are correct. Now which one is the best? See, time for herself and self-discovery, among these two, self-discovery is correct. Why? Because self-discovery is the condition, is that confused state that she already feels and that she wants to discover, isn't it? When you are confused, you need time for yourself to think that why am I confused? What do I want from life? So you have to think, and for that you need time for yourself. So the best possible answer here is self-discovery, because you see, in self-discovery you already have this point, time for herself, isn't it? That's fine. Question number 3. Identify the symbolic significance of armchair. So armchair, we have to identify the symbolic significance, very important, not just the meaning, it is symbolic significance. What is it? Armchair, I have already given you, this one is an easy question for you because it is already discussed in my video. If you haven't watched it, please watch the video, the link would be provided somewhere on the top. So identify the symbolic significance of armchair. What is it? It provided her the idea of being free. So symbolic significance is asked. So being free, is the armchair giving her the idea of being free? Alright, let's see what are the other options. It helped her recognize her long lost freedom. So this is also not that wrong, but not that correct also. It was a symbol of that comfortable space that one requires for oneself. It symbolized the happiness within her. Now, those who have already heard the last video or listened to the last video and practiced from there, you already know that C will be correct. Because that comfortable armchair, what is it? It has a lot of space, isn't it? It is already called a roomy armchair, correct? If you see the lines, you'll find out for yourself. Let's go back. See, open window, a comfortable roomy armchair. This means that roomy means a lot of space is there. When you are provided a lot of space around you, when you can move around, do whatever you want, like that kind of a space. So the armchair, the way she sits on it, sits inside it, and it's like you feel that warmth and that coziness, and you are comfortable and you are enjoying that moment for yourself. That is a comfortable space that you have, and that is a symbol of that armchair, that comfortable space that you will henceforth have in your life, Mrs. Mallard. Alright, so we have got all the answers of all the questions. There were 6 questions for you from this one, story of an hour. And you see, as we have solved all of them, you find out yourself how much you have scored by when you if you have opted the questions yourself. If you have not, if you find that it is a bit difficult, keep practicing. Alright, this will be a bit difficult, so I'm bringing the questions which are a little bit confusing. So you keep practicing. I'll keep on bringing in new videos till your first semester, and also grammar topics. Maybe in the next video or the next to the next, we will also bring MCQ videos on grammar. You tell me if you want questions from any particular topic. We will soon be bringing all of them, but you can write which are your priorities, or if you have any problem in any one, then you can ask for that too. So here we come to an end with this video, and we will be meeting you in the next video again. So thank you so much. I'm Reshmi Mukherjee, and I'm extremely happy that I am privileged that I can help you with this strange and a different kind of semester system that we are having for the ICSE and ISC student. Thank you so much. Bye bye everybody. If you have liked it, do subscribe and do hit the like button.